Hello, my name is Simon Atkinson. In this brief presentation I'm going to address three of the learning design approaches in the DIALE framework, those of collaborative, student-authored and independent research. Remind you that these fit within a much broader context of a discussion around the different learning spaces in which artifacts might be deployed and a range of pedagogic techniques, if you like, that would allow you to engage different skills in the students and different activities. So collaborative authoring and research are just three of a broader framework. The collaborative design is very much as it sounds. It's about getting students to work with digital artifacts of any description, given the technical limitations that you may have in your institutions, to get them to work with those artifacts in some kind of collaborative way and to develop a means of working together in order to achieve some defined outcome. So one might, for instance, pick a particular theme or a particular topic which is going to illustrate your course and ask students to engage, maybe individual groups of students to engage with different archive materials to inform a broader discussion that may take place within a formal teaching situation. Alternatively, one might actually ask them to identify within the resources things which represent contradictory positions, so that one group might be asked to go and look at newspaper articles which were favourable to a particular situation, and another to look at a series of articles which were contrary to that position. Now, it may be that the activity itself is very much the learning experience, and the actual subject matter which the students are being asked to look at may actually be secondary. At this stage, we're not suggesting that students should be asked to create materials, but rather to work with the existing materials around a series of collaborative activities. The next design is one in which we anticipate students would actually be asked to develop some of the media literacy skills that are becoming so much part of our curriculums now, and we expect students to be able to manufacture digital artifacts, even if at the moment we're just talking about the ability to produce Word documents. Nonetheless, we do expect them to have some of these skills, whether they do or not. And the suggestion here is that there are particular activities that could be assigned to students to actually create from the existing resources, where copyright allows, new digital artifacts, to go through the process of repurposing and adding additional material in order to make sense. And so again, the emphasis is very much on knowledge construction, and this is likely to be a combination of individual activity and collaborative activity, since the skills are likely to be ones which not every individual would have. And I think this is an interesting example of where one can work outside one's own subject content in order to get students to work across boundaries, and possibly even to work across discipline boundaries. So the example that I'm offering here is where one would actually ask, probably a collective, but individuals could have defined roles, to author something by bringing together materials from a variety of different sources. So one might, for instance, ask students to look at the medical archives and the news film archive at a particular medical issue of, say, 25 years ago, and then another group of students potentially to contrast that with the popular position on medical ethics that would be represented in the newspaper archives and parliamentary papers. So one could get two different historical periods, two different sets of media dealing with different issues in different ways, and then bring together what common threads might exist in some facilitated class discussion. So the archives themselves, when one starts to think laterally about what they contain beyond the content, they contain the possibilities for some very interesting collaborative activities, and students could be asked to put case studies together, to put particular positions together, and one might consider holding almost a kind of legal moot type situation to feed that back in a classroom situation. The reason that I think the independent research design fits with these other two is that, as we've demonstrated in those previous two, there's going to be a lot of extensive research and inquiry skills that it will develop as students engage with the materials, as you yourself will have found by looking at some of the archives. You find yourself going through a process of trying to think about intelligent searches and refining those searches, and the tendency to want to browse and being able to just navigate your way through the material. Students will go through that same process of developing those inquiry skills. And what one wants to do, of course, is make students aware that they are going through that process. This could be by asking them to document the process itself in the form of some portfolio of inquiry, or to submit perhaps a plan of research engagement with various archived materials, which they can, of course, then triangulate with other printed materials and journal materials, whatever's available within the libraries, but that they would actually see this as a valid research tool. And in doing so, whether within a module, whether as an identified activity, or whether just in support of some other assessment task, there are some opportunities for very rich transferable skills. Those three designs, very briefly described, obviously fit within a framework of 10, and we'll go on to talk about the others shortly.